He had been invisible for so long that he had started to believe it. That is the thing about living on the street that nobody tells you. It is not just the cold, not just the hunger, not just the concrete under your back at 3 in the morning. It is the way people learn to look through you, the way eyes slide past you on a sidewalk, the same way they slide past a fire hydrant or a mailbox. Necessary furniture in a city, part of the landscape, not a person. His name was Vincent. He was 51 years old, and on a Tuesday morning in November, he was sitting on a piece of cardboard outside a coffee shop on 5th Street with his back against the brick wall and a paper cup in front of him and exactly $4.30 to his name, watching the morning rush of people who had somewhere to be. He had a prayer, he said every morning. He had said it every morning for 2 years, through every version of this life, the shelter nights and the doorway nights and the nights in the park when the temperature dropped and you just kept moving to stay warm. Every morning, the same prayer. Just 6 words. God, please don't forget about me. He said it that Tuesday morning the same way he said it every morning. Quietly, without expectation. The way you say something you mean but have stopped hoping will be heard. He didn't know that today, everything was going to change. Not in the way he had imagined. Not in the way anyone would have imagined. In the way God changes things. Sideways, through people, in the middle of an ordinary Tuesday when you are sitting on cardboard with $4.30 and a prayer that feels like it's going nowhere. Vincent Okafor had not always been invisible. He grew up in Houston, Texas, the son of Nigerian immigrants who had come to America with 2 suitcases and an absolute conviction that this country would reward effort if you gave it everything. His father, Emmanuel, worked as an engineer. His mother, Grace, everyone called her Mama Grace, taught elementary school for 31 years and knew the name of every child who ever sat in her classroom. They were people of enormous faith and enormous expectation, and they raised Vincent inside both. He had been, by every measure, a success. Degree in electrical engineering from Texas A&M, a career with a firm in Atlanta, a house in a good neighborhood with a yard his son Marcus could play in. A wife, Denise, sharp and beautiful, and the kind of woman who held an entire family together from the center without making a production of it. For 20 years, Vincent lived the life his parents had crossed an ocean to make possible. Then the thing that unmakes lives arrived, the way it always does, without announcing itself. It started with his knee, a surgery that went routinely wrong, a prescription that became a habit that became something he was managing, and then something managing him. He hid it the way professionals hide things, carefully, skillfully, with the practiced ease of a man who had spent a career solving complex problems and believed this was simply one more problem he could solve on his own. He could not solve it on his own. By the time Denise understood the full shape of what was happening, Vincent had borrowed against the house, lost 2 clients through missed deadlines, and was living in a fog so thick he could not always remember the previous day. She gave him every chance she had to give. She loved him through things that would have ended other marriages. And then, with the quiet devastation of a woman who has finally run out, she took Marcus and left. Marcus was 11. The loss of Marcus was the thing that broke what was left. Vincent spent the next 4 years trying to get back to some version of his former life and failing in every direction at once. Rehab twice. Relapse twice. A series of apartments he could not keep. A series of jobs he could not hold. The engineering career he had built over 20 years evaporated like it had never been. Companies don't wait for you to get your life together, and his name in the industry now carried the specific weight of a man who had become unreliable. His parents helped until they could no longer help without enabling. His mother called him every Sunday and cried quietly when she thought he couldn't hear, and he loved her so much it was like a wound that wouldn't close, and loving her wasn't enough to save him either. At 49, Vincent Okafor was on the street. He had been clean for 8 months when he ended up there. That was the part that gutted him most. 8 months sober, doing the right things, attending the meetings, and still running out of options faster than he could rebuild them. The shelter system was overwhelmed. The jobs available to a man with his background gaps and his address, when his address was whatever doorway he could find, were few and inconsistent. He slept outside. He survived. He learned the invisible rules of the invisible life. And every morning, in the gray, early light before the city woke up and forgot about him again, he said his 6-word prayer and tried to believe someone was listening. God, please don't forget about me. That Tuesday in November was cold. The kind of cold that gets into the joints and stays there. The specific personal cold of someone who has no way to get fully warm, who carries it in his body like ballast. Vincent had been sitting outside the coffee shop since 7. It was now almost 10, and the rush had thinned, and he was working up the energy to move to the soup kitchen on Meridian before it closed at noon. He was tired in the kind of way that sleep doesn't fix. Not just the body tired, the kind that lives in the center of you. The tired of 2 years of invisible mornings and invisible days and invisible nights, of being 51 years old and having built something real and watched it come apart in your own hands and not knowing how to explain to your son, who was now 13 and lived across town with his mother and a stepfather who coached his baseball team, how a man who loved him this much had still managed to fail him this completely. He had not seen Marcus in 7 months. He stared at his paper cup, and without meaning to, without planning it, without the 6 words he usually managed, without anything structured at all, he just started talking. Quietly, under his breath, the way men talk to God when they are past caring who hears them. I'm not okay. I know you know that. I don't have anything left to pretend with. I am 51 years old, and I am sitting on cardboard, and my son doesn't know where I am, and I don't know how to come back from this. I don't know if I'm supposed to come back from this. He paused. Someone walked past without looking at him. I'm not asking for everything. I know I don't deserve everything. I'm just asking for one thing, one sign that you see me, one thing that tells me I'm not just gone, that I still matter to you even like this, even here, even as this, because I am so tired of being invisible. I am so tired of it. He stopped talking. He wiped his face with the back of his hand, and then he heard a voice. Not from the sky, from the coffee shop doorway 3 feet to his left. Hey, excuse me, sir. He looked up. The man standing in the doorway was maybe 35, well-dressed. The kind of man who clearly had somewhere to be, laptop bag, good coat, coffee in hand. The kind of man whose eyes usually did the sliding thing. His eyes were not sliding. He was looking directly at Vincent, and there was something in the way he was looking, not pitying, not the guilty bystander glance people gave when they accidentally made eye contact, but specific, direct. The way you look at someone you have been told to look for. He said, I don't normally do this. I want to be honest with you about that. I'm not someone who does this. He set his coffee down on the window ledge. He reached into his coat pocket. But I've been sitting inside for 45 minutes trying to work, and I keep looking at you through the window, and I feel like, I don't know how to explain this. I feel like I'm supposed to talk to you. Vincent stared at him. The man crouched down so they were at eye level, not standing over him. Level. What's your name? Nobody had asked Vincent his name in longer than he could immediately remember. Vincent, he said. Vincent. The man said it like it mattered. I'm Aaron, and I know this is going to sound strange, but I have to ask, do you have a background in engineering, skilled trades, something technical? Vincent's whole body went still. Electrical engineering, he said slowly. 20 years, Texas A&M. Aaron sat back on his heels. "Okay," he said almost to himself. "Okay." Then he looked back at Vincent. "I run a workforce re-entry program. We work specifically with men who have professional backgrounds and have hit serious disruptions, addiction, incarceration, whatever it is. We help them rebuild credentials. We connect them to employers who will actually look at their full history. We have a position that opened up 3 days ago." He reached into his laptop bag and pulled out a card. "This is not a handout. This is a conversation. I want you to come in, not because I feel sorry for you, but because a man with your background sitting on this sidewalk is a waste of something that doesn't have to be wasted. And because—" He paused, and something moved across his face that he seemed almost embarrassed by. "I have been sitting in that coffee shop for 45 minutes, and I could not shake the feeling that I was supposed to come out here and talk to you specifically. So, here I am." Vincent looked at the card in Aaron's hand. He looked at the man crouching at eye level on a cold sidewalk in November, who had put down his coffee and his somewhere to be, to crouch at eye level on a cold sidewalk. He thought about his prayer, the one he had just prayed. Not the 6-word morning prayer, the longer one, the undone one, the one that had come out of him without structure or dignity. "One sign that you see me." His hands were shaking when he took the card, not from the cold. He said, "Why are you doing this?" Aaron was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that landed in Vincent's chest, like a stone dropping into still water. "Because someone did it for me once. When I was in a place I didn't think I was coming back from. And the only reason I could think of for why I got that chance was so that one day I'd recognize someone else who needed it." He stood up. He picked up his coffee. "Come in Thursday morning, 9 o'clock. Ask for Aaron. We'll talk for an hour. No pressure, no promises, just a conversation between two people." He walked away. Vincent sat on the cardboard with the card in his shaking hand and the cold around him and the noise of Fifth Street and the coffee shop and the invisible city continuing without pausing. And he felt something move through him from the feet up, slow and undeniable and warm. Not heat from a building, not warmth from a coat. Something else. Something that had a quality he recognized from childhood, from Mama Grace's church on Sunday mornings, when he was small enough to fit in the crook of her arm, from the feeling of being in a room where someone enormous and gentle was paying attention. He knew what this was. He knew whose answer this was. He held the card in both hands and pressed his face down toward it, and wept. Silently, completely, on a cardboard square outside a coffee shop on Fifth Street, with the gratitude of a man who had asked to be seen and had been seen before the prayer had finished leaving his mouth. He went on Thursday. He almost didn't. Wednesday night in the shelter, he held the card under the fluorescent light and turned it over and talked himself in and out of it 17 times. His brain, which had learned the language of failure, was fluent in reasons this wouldn't work. Too long ago. Too much gap. Too damaged. Too late. He went anyway. 9 o'clock. Asked for Aaron. The conversation lasted 2 hours. What followed was not a movie montage of instant transformation. It was slower and harder and more real than that. There were background checks, and there were conversations about his history that required him to say true things plainly without flinching. There was a housing assistance referral that took 6 weeks to come through. There were certifications he needed to update, late-night studying in the shelter common room under bad lighting, the specific humbling of a 51-year-old man with a Texas A&M degree relearning things he once knew as a young man. But he did it. Every step. Not perfectly. There was one week, week 4, where the weight of it came crashing down on him in a way that felt like the old pull, the familiar darkness, and he called the number his counselor had given him at 2 a.m. and talked for an hour and did not use. That hour on the phone in the dark was one of the hardest things he had ever done and one of the things he was most proud of. He called his mother. Mama Grace answered on the first ring. She had been answering on the first ring his whole life. He told her where he was and what was happening, and she was quiet for a long moment, and then she said, "I have been praying for you every single morning at 5:30, every single morning for 2 years." Vincent thought about 5:30 in the morning. He thought about himself on the street at 5:30, cold and invisible, and his mother in Houston at 5:30, awake and praying. He had not been alone in the dark, not once. He called Marcus. That call was the hardest and the most necessary thing he had done in years. Marcus was 13, and there was hurt in his voice. Not cruel, not punishing, just the honest hurt of a boy who had needed his father and had not had him. And Vincent did not explain it away or justify it or ask for more than Marcus was ready to give. He said, "I'm getting better. I'm not going to promise you anything except that I'm going to keep trying. And I want you to know what I'm doing, if you want to know." Marcus said, "Yeah, I want to know." By March, 4 months after a Tuesday morning on cardboard with $4.30, Vincent Okafor had an address, a real one. A small room in a transitional housing facility, but a room with a door that locked and a window that looked out on a courtyard, and it was his. He started at Aaron's program part-time in April, helping to connect other men with backgrounds like his to the same door someone had once opened for him. He was not all the way back. He would tell you that plainly. The road was long and the destination was still far off, and there were days when the distance felt crushing. But he was on the road, he was moving, and he knew, in a way he would never unknow, that he had not been building this alone. Vincent tells this story differently depending on who's listening. To the men who come through the program, the ones sitting across the table with the specific hollow look of someone who has been invisible too long, he tells it plainly. He tells them about the cardboard, about the $4.30, about the prayer that had no structure, the one that came out of him like something his body couldn't hold anymore. "I asked God for one sign," he tells them. "One thing. I told him I needed to know I still mattered, even like that, even there, even as whatever I had become. And before I finished asking, there was a man crouching at my eye level on a cold sidewalk, telling me someone had sent him out there to find me." He leans forward when he gets to this part. That is not coincidence. I don't have enough faith in coincidence to believe that. Aaron had been sitting inside for 45 minutes fighting the feeling that he was supposed to come outside. I had just finished a prayer asking to be seen. You do the math on that. He looks at whoever is sitting across from him. God does not wait until you are presentable. He does not wait until you have a roof or a job or a story that sounds respectable. He meets you on the cardboard. He sends people to crouch at eye level in the cold. He uses ordinary Tuesday mornings and a man who almost didn't come outside. The help does not always look like what you imagined. It almost never looks like what you imagined. Sometimes it looks like a business card from a stranger who can't explain why he's talking to you. Sometimes it looks like a phone call from your mother, who has been praying at 5:30 every morning for 2 years. Sometimes it looks like your son saying, "Yeah, I want to know." He pauses. But it is always him. In everything that reaches toward you in the dark, it is always, always him. Maybe you are on the cardboard right now, not literally, but in the way that matters. The invisible place. The place where you have been carrying something so heavy for so long that you've started to wonder if you were ever going to be seen again. The place where the prayers have started to feel like they're going nowhere, like you're talking into a room with no one in it. Maybe the struggle has a name: addiction, loss, failure, shame, the long fall from a life that used to make sense. Maybe you are carrying the weight of a person you used to be and can't find your way back to. Say the 6 words, or say the longer version, the undone, unstructured, undignified version that comes out without grammar or order or any of the things you think prayer is supposed to have. God is not waiting for the polished version. He has never been waiting for the polished version. He is looking for the true version. And when it comes, the real thing, the honest thing, the prayer that bypasses your pride and goes straight from the floor of you to Him, He will answer it. Not always in the way you imagined, almost never in the way you imagined, but someone will crouch at eye level. Someone will say your name like it matters. Someone who almost didn't come outside will come outside. And you will know, the way Vincent knew, the way you know things that are too specific to be accident, that the God who made you has not for one invisible morning looked away. He sees you. He has always seen you. And the help is already on its way.